Right, you lot. Well, welcome back to Disney Ranked after. It's been over a year, I checked. The last time we recorded was April 2022. And
Damn, I thought at least last summer.
yeah, I would have thought that too. It was really bizarre. So, if you want to, like, know where we've been, everyone's forgotten about us, let's be honest. They've
I
moved on,
mean,
but,
I've
I mean,
I've been high school.
yeah, I've been in school as well. Like, that's the thing. When we first started this, it was during the lockdown 2020, and it was like no one did
Yeah,
it. No
we
one was
first,
going anywhere, so it was like it was so easy to just do
yeah,
stuff like every other day.
yeah, we first started like right at the heat of the lockdown, and we had
Yeah.
nothing better
So,
to do,
so it
and
was like,
and we just
what else are we gonna do? And then it slowly got
exactly.
less and less and less as the months went by. But
And now the lockdown is over, so now we're just doing this for fun.
yeah, we're actually doing stuff in our lives now. So yeah. So
I know I
what I
got
thought we'd
things
do,
going on
because we're
now.
so bad at actually finding time to actually sit down and do recordings, I thought what we'd
Yeah,
actually go ahead and do was do a ranking of multiple films instead of going on about just one film every couple years. At least let's talk about
mm,
26. I think there is Pixar current, including Elemental 27. So today we're going to be
yes,
ranking all 27 Pixar films from the worst Pixar film to the best. There's going to be arguments, going to be disagreements. I might kick Amber off the show
hmm
by the end of it. So
Okay, Lewis. Okay, Lewis. Nah,
uh,
and
it may have been over a
keep in
year, but
mind
nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
we haven't grown up at all. We're still 11. And keep in mind, guys, this is gonna be 100% our personal opinions and our takes and our
Yeah, there's
preferences
no
on the
like
movies.
constructive thing here because I wanted to make it interesting and I wanted to do that. So yeah, don't get too
I
angry.
don't know.
I know
I
there's a
don't
few
know if Lewis.
placements that you in particular won't like, but there's
Oh,
some
I know
controversial
you're
ones.
gonna hate my list, but there's
Yeah,
also and I
there's
don't
a
know if
few we
Lewis
might
did
agree
this.
on. So how we're gonna do it
We'll
is I
see.
think we'll go by number. So it'll be like 20.
Yes,
You've got 27 on your list, haven't you?
yes,
Because
yes, I
I've not
do.
seen Elemental yet because I'm slow. I've got a thing with
I
most
have.
films when a film comes out now, I take forever to see it, even if it's great. Like Guardians 3, that was a sensational film. I've not spoke to you
Oh,
about it yet, but
beautiful,
but
spectacular.
it took
Yes.
me like 2-3 weeks to go see it. So
Man, I saw it you know I saw it the second
oh,
it
I
came
know,
out. The
yeah, I know what
day
you're like as well. I
I had a countdown going, man. I was like, all right, guys, 14 more days, and we're seeing
yeah.
Guardians 3.
All
I was
right,
annoying everybody.
so let's
And
start.
now, real quick before we start though, I don't know if you did this too, even though I told you you should. Um, even though this list is 100% my opinion and my preferences on these movies, on the side I put like an out of 10 on like the movie itself, like without
Yeah,
any
yeah, I did
biased
that as well.
opinions.
I did listen, believe
Yeah,
it or
okay,
not.
good. So
So
that's why don't get weirded out when a movie I say is like 8 out of 10 is above a movie that's like or a movie that's like 8 out of 10 is below a movie that's like a 6 out of 10. It's just my personal opinion, but I do like to be fair as much as I can be.
absolutely right.
But
So
that's
let's start from the bottom of the list, shall we? Number
all right. You
20.
might already be you already might be a little surprised unless you did the same thing, which I would be shocked if you did.
All right, so 26th. In
Okay.
the end, I did go for Lightyear.
I did go for Lightyear as well.
Well, yeah.
I
Let me kick this off right now. The bottom two, they kind of speak for themselves with picks. I think most people have the
mm,
same bottom two, and I
mm,
came down to the two films. I said, which one would I actually rather watch again? Which one can I get a bit more
yep.
like enjoyment out of? They're both terrible films, but for me, Lightyear was just worthless. That's the best way to
Can I
put it
just
for me.
can I just say at least Cars 2 tries to be entertaining even though it fails, it tries. Lightyear is the definition of dull and bland and just draining you of any enjoyment. It's like it goes out of its way to make sure you have a terrible time watching this movie.
For me, with
And
Light,
it
I'll let you
pushes
go actually.
It's just, oh my God. And I was the only one, by the way, who saw the Lightyear trailer and was like, this doesn't look that good. Everyone else thought it looked
I
great. And
I
I'm like,
remember I said
okay.
this. I watched back that Encanto episode a couple of days ago just to see where we last at. We talked about Lightyear, and I said this has the potential to be as bad as Cars 2, or it might be a pleasant surprise. But I didn't have a good feeling for it either. I remember. So for me,
Mm.
the worst thing about Lightyear is that they marketed this film as the movie that Andy watched that inspired him to buy Buzz Lightyear. I don't know why you would buy Buzz Lightyear after watching that movie.
Exactly. I
He's
would
so,
want nothing to, dude, if I saw this movie, I would want the cat,
yeah,
not
you
the
all want
damn
it.
Lightyear.
Everyone wants the cat. Like that's who I wanted as well. Like,
It's so dumb. It's
yeah.
just not
So I kind of want to move
anything
on
fun.
from. I want to move on from the bad movie and kind of talk about good movie. So
Before Lightyear, okay, even though it's at the bottom of my list, the movie itself is like a 5 out of 10. The
yeah,
movie itself,
on an objective level, it's fine. I put it as a 6. It's a harmless film. Keep the kids
yeah,
entertained.
it
It's not
doesn't
as
do anything bad.
offensive as some
It's just
Pixar
that
films, but I just think
it's
it's
just that by
such a, like.
Pixar standards.
I'd rather watch an entertaining bad film than a boring, generic, worthless
Exactly.
film, and I think that's what it came down to for me. Then 25th,
Exactly.
I think we can agree. I've gone for Cars 2.
Me too. For
Cars 2
25,
is a hilarious
oh
train wreck of a
dear.
film on every level. It's a film that's
The,
notorious for Pixar because it was the first bad Pixar film, you can argue, and it's the first.
I would agree.
And it's
Yeah.
the Pixar film that really put down like a trajectory of the 2010s. But yes, of course, it had some great films. You've got films that are in my top 10 that came out in the 2010s, but it had its fair share of poor mediocrity, and it was kind of it.
Hmm.
They had such a role in the 2000s, and that film ruined it. And it's such a bizarre film. The first Cars, we'll
Yeah.
get to it in a minute. I'm not a big fan of the first Cars. It, we'll get to it in a minute. But where of all directions to take into a sequel, you're gonna make it about Mater, and make it a spy
Exactly.
thing, and try and do this like emotional thing of like, oh, no one actually cares about Mater. What were they thinking?
Exactly. Like, exactly. The movie, it's just very much like it didn't have any goal. When they were making this movie, they were just like
Yeah,
their main goal
it
was
was
they
to make
wanted to sell
toys. And
merchandise,
it's
is
such a
they wanted to
shame
sell
because you
merchandise.
you look at
And they
Pixar.
wanted to exploit the popular character. This movie, what we love about Pixar is the fact that most of their movies are not kid movies; they are family movies.
Yeah,
The
Cars.
entirety of the Cars franchise is a kid movie, and they think just because it's a kid movie, they don't have to try that hard, which
Yeah,
sucks.
the what
And uh,
the one thing that I will give Cars though, Cars 2 is it is visually pleasing. Like I think the
it's
animation is
that.
good as always, but that's the case in every
Mhm.
Pixar film. You know what I mean? It's
That's the one reason why I put it above Lightyear is because with Lightyear, every background shot was dull and bland and boring. Cars
yeah,
2 at least tried with
like
its background
some of the
shot.
visual. And I actually think there are like some better scenes. There's more memorable scenes in Cars 2 than Lightyear as well.
I agree. I agree. And even though that doesn't mean it
Okay, so
succeeds
we've
or
we've
it's
got
very
past
funny.
the worst two. From here on, I'll be surprised if we tie on any of these. So
Cars 2, I gave the movie itself a 3 out of 10. Now that's just my opinion. I like even
yeah,
though
yeah,
I do
I gave it a
objectively,
4 personally. I just think
yeah,
like critics hated
mhm.
Cars 2, didn't they? It was not.
Yeah, objectively, Lightyear is objectively a better movie, but that doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's any more
All
enjoyable.
right. So 24th. Now it starts to get interesting. 24th. I've gone for
Yeah,
the Good Dinosaur.
I actually also have The Good Dinosaur.
Wow,
Believe
three
it
in a row.
or not.
The Good
Yeah.
Dinosaur. The main reason actually I have it above Cars 2 and Lightyear is because I do feel bad for the film when you look in the behind the scenes, the delays, what it went
Hmm.
through, how long it took to come out. It was supposed to come out, there were Easter eggs for it in Cars 2. I think it was supposed to be out 2012. It took a whole another 2-3 years to come out,
Mm.
and but the problem with Good Dinosaur for me it's just on a visual level. You've got these amazing, gorgeous background with such bad
Hmm.
character designs.
And just such a bland story too. It's like we've seen the story of of the parent passes away and
Yeah,
now the kid is off on an adventure learning
I've
how to be
seen people
independent.
call that scene a Mufasa like scene, but it's nowhere near has the emotional weight. The
Oh,
reason the Mufasa scene worked wasn't because his dad died. It was because the way it happened. He was killed by his brother. His son thought he was responsible. He ran away. That was why it was emotional. The visuals, the animation.
mhm,
This was just an accident he couldn't have caused. Arlo is probably the
exactly.
worst Pixar protagonist between him and Buzz Lightyear and Lightyear.
He's very irritating.
Yeah,
He,
and
I, like I'll say the few good things that the Good Dinosaur has going for it is you still know I'm a sucker for non-speaking animated characters
you're
because
still running
that's
with
when
that
the
after all these
animation
years, then.
that's I'm telling you that's when the animation takes over and I just
Yeah.
love it. And so I will say they did have a few good visual gags with the child
And that
with
is
Spot.
that one scene in The Good Dinosaur, which I'll go back to, where the kind of Arlo and Spot are telling each other how they lost their families, and that was a beautiful scene, personally. But
And when Spot reunites with his family,
yeah, so
that could be a little
those
tear-jerking.
two scenes are things that Lightyear could only dream of. So 23, I know you're not going to agree with this. So
Wait, we gotta say our ranking of the movie. So The Good Dinosaur, I give that movie itself a 5 out of 10.
yeah,
It's
I actually give it a
generic.
4 because I think it's just such a mess of a film that critics just like it was pretty much on par with Cars 2. But 23rd
Yeah.
now, and this might be controversial, but I've gone for
Ooh.
the original Cars.
Okay. Okay, I don't okay.
What have you got in
Not okay.
23?
I have A Bug's Life. And
Wow,
that
that's a fair few. We'll get to. Alright,
might
which
be a hot take, but I was actually gonna put Bug's Life below Good Dinosaur, but then I was like, nah. And
okay?
Bug's Life, I'm
We'll
sorry.
start with A Bug's
I
Life.
yeah,
For me, it is by far, apart from Cars, in my opinion, the worst of the classic run of Toy Story to Toy Story 3. And
yeah.
the problem
It's
with it
just
is that it is using a trope in the film that you've seen so many times of the misunderstanding liar
mhm,
reveal, and it wasn't well
yeah,
utilized in that. I think there are elements I really
yeah.
like. I think Hopper as a villain, ignoring who he's played by for a minute, is a great villain. I think some of the
I just
visual
got
use
that.
is good.
Yeah, ignoring the actors.
Yeah,
Um,
we just throw
Yeah,
that to the
the thing with
side.
The Bug's Life, it's just that I will say it is visually pleasing at some points. I do like how what they do with the circus and trying to make it and trying to like add in incorporate everyday
Yeah,
items into
and
like the
you
circus.
gotta keep in
That,
mind it
it's
was their
fascinating.
second film, but you compare it to Toy Story, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., the
Mhm.
second, third, and like fourth films.
It's I feel like A Bug's Life, it's one of those cases again when they're like, let's focus on the kids. And when I don't know why Pixar does this, but
Yeah.
whenever they are trying to target more younger audiences instead of bringing in the whole family, they feel like they don't have to try that hard, which really,
Okay.
really sucks because kids
So,
deserve good
okay.
quality entertainment.
So, what rating did you give for A Bug's Life? I'll give my
I
rating when I get to it on my ranking. But
I gave it a 6 out of 10,
yeah.
like bias aside.
Right,
It's not the
I
worst
put
film.
Cars down here. I don't think on a critical level I gave Cars a 6.5 out of 10, kind of 7. It's a pretty decent film. Most Pixar films are quite good, which is the difficult I found with this. But my issue with Cars is that it's just when they go to Radiator Springs, it loses me so much. I find the opening and ending decent, but that Radiator Springs stuff, it doesn't work for me. I'm not a big Mater fan, to be honest, and Lightning just does not work as a lead character for me. I get the point is he's arrogant, but he's so unlikable. Yeah, there's bits I like. Doc Hudson, of course, is fantastic, but for me, it's just such a
And
boring film, and it's kind of like a light year. It feels lifeless at points. It feels worthless. A bit more substance. I think Chick Hicks is entertaining as a villain. Lightning's kind of
I will
moments in
say
it is good.
it should be saying when you make a character played by Owen Wilson unlikable. That
I love
that
Owen Wilson. Yeah, right.
that's an issue. That's an
So
issue.
I think that's why I've got Cars to like. It's such a lifeless movie, and so I gave Cars a
Okay.
6.57 out of 10, like I've said. But yeah, we'll get to where you put
Okay.
it later on. I hope it's not too high. But 22, this might be in my top three most controversial placements. 22, I've
Oh,
gone for The Incredibles 2.
No freaking way.
And what have you gone for?
I put Cars at 22.
Oh, fair enough. So, since you talk about cars first, because mine, I think there's a bit more to chew on.
Yeah, I think with Cars, I'm gonna be okay. I think I'm a little biased to Cars as of right now because I used to just say, "Oh, all the Cars movies are trash," and I don't like any of them. I just went to Disneyland, California, and for the
Oh
first
dear.
time, I rode the Cars Radiator Springs Racers ride. And I don't know why, but it made me look at the movies completely differently. Doesn't mean I think they're good, but I do have a lot more respect for them because the
I
ride
mean,
is
I have
super
a
fun.
completely
And
opposite story of being humiliated on a Cars ride, so.
oh, oh man,
Well, it
spill,
was my
spill, tell us.
parents, but uh, should I tell this story? I might as well. So we in I go to Paris because I live in the UK. That's the closest one. So we go to Disneyland Paris, and there's like this children car ride. This was a few years ago, 2017, and we basically me and my sister get in one car, my mum and my dad get in the other car. But the problem is you've got a child section and an adult section. My father takes up the entire adult section. So my mother's trying to squeeze in, but she can't get the seatbelt on. So on the large announcing thing, the woman go, "Can the people in cart 15 move to the large cart 18?"
Oh man.
Yeah, so I might be a bit biased towards cars, but yeah. So what have you
I
given
have kind
cars?
of a funny what this happened when on my most recent trip. We went to Cars Land in Disneyland for the first time, and we were doing. It was like a Cars kiddie ride. It was a ride. It was like Luigi's spin or something, where you go into a car and it like dances around basically, and that's the whole ride. Me and my dad sat in the car, and we have one long seatbelt that's supposed to cover both of our laps, right? And so the car's dancing and stuff. And then it stops for a second, and he immediately assumes, okay, it's over. He reaches for his seatbelt, and it jerks us again because it's not over.
Oh my
And then it
god.
stops again, and we're like, okay, it's over. Reaches for his seatbelt again, it's not over.
Wow.
Reaches, and that happened like 3 or 4 times that my dad almost got us killed because he tried to take off the seatbelt.
What a
And I'm
story.
like,
I
Dad,
love it.
it is not over yet.
Yeah. I'm actually going to Paris this summer in a couple of weeks, literally 4 weeks time, so
All right.
yeah. It's my third time going. I'm gonna go to the Florida one day. Definitely.
This was in
Let
California.
me
This
get
was
on
my
to
first.
Incredibles 2 then, because I assume you've probably got this one a fair bit higher.
Yeah, a lot higher,
Look,
but
my
okay.
issue with Incredibles 2 is, and I know it's a bad criticism, but 15 years we had to wait. They could have done something better. I just think the fundamental concept of the film doesn't work. I think they take characters who were so rich in the first film. You take someone like Dash. In the first film, he's this complimenting kid who's got these issues, and then in the second film, oh, he's just got to do maths homework. Violet, she's this complicated, shy girl who's trying to get over like anxiety, but also deal with the fact that she's a superhero and she just wants to be this normal girl. Second film, oh, she's just got a boyfriend memory wiped. Bob in the first film, this guy who's trying to tackle living with the glory days, and then the mix of like having to actually be in the real world. Oh, now he's just a goofball dad. He's got to deal with his babies with power. There's elements that are good. There's action set pieces in the film that are fantastic. I also can't stand Evelyn Dever. Her plan is atrocious because she wants to make superheroes not legal by proving that making them legal again and then making them illegal. They were illegal to start. It's a dumb plan. There's moments that I like. Jack steals some scenes. One of my favourite scenes is when Violet and Dash are on their own after Frozone is like hypnotised. But for me, it was such a letdown with how much I loved the first one. There is a bit of bias in love there, and I think as an actual movie, it's probably a 7 out of 10. But just based off the fact of how excited I was and how much I loved the first film, this was a disappointing drop off.
Okay. I gotta say, I gotta get so much because I let you talk, and now I gotta say this. So this is coming from another huge, huge, huge Incredibles 1 fan. That is like you'll see where it is later, but I absolutely adore the film. The second one, looking at it as saying it's not big enough, or like, oh, it's just Dash has homework to do, or Violet is having boyfriend problems and stuff. You can look at it like that, but then you gotta also realize less sometimes is more, and these movies still have so much heart so much comedy and just so much enjoyment that even if we're getting on paper a simple storyline, in execution, it's still like the dad is being low-key jealous of his wife, but he also has to do simple parent work. But sometimes the simple parent work is a lot harder for him because he's never really
Yeah.
been a single parent before. And it's just, and the one thing that I think kept The Incredibles 2 strong is the fact that it still had, I felt, even though the story wasn't that strong, like the villain, I wasn't a fan of the villain, it still, I think, but recaptured the soul and the heart and the comedy of the original film, which is why I think it
Yeah,
kept it from actually being a pretty solid movie.
I see what you're saying. I can see it. I think there is some bias definitely involved in this ranking, but I think it was underutilized. You look at some of the new characters they brought in.
Hmm.
I think the big issue is that they originally this was Incredibles 3 was supposed to come out in 2019. Toy Story 4 was meant to come out in 2018. They swapped them, and some of the moments in the film does feel like a first draft. I think they needed more time to kind of construct that film for
Oh,
me.
yeah. I can see that. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I do think the villain was a little too weak for, I think the villain
Yeah,
was like, easily the weakest part of the whole movie,
I just think,
especially when you compare it.
and you'll see where I'll put The Incredibles later on. Spoilers. It's right like up there. You know what I mean? It is. It's one of the
Mhm.
best, and it's just
Yeah,
disappointing to me. So yeah,
I can, yeah, but if you, I feel like you might be looking at it as like you were hoping that it was like the next Infinity War or the next Guardians 3 or
yeah,
something. And I was just like, honestly, sometimes a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was enough, you know? Like it I thoroughly enjoyed Incredibles 2, but I understand why. I get it. For me, if your issue was just the villain or just this storyline wasn't as
yeah,
strong as the first one, then I could totally understand that. But you don't want to just like expect like bang 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 bang. Like sometimes it's like just
absolutely.
what we love about these movies is the characters at its heart, and I think they really recapture that. So we rambled for a really long time. Let's move on to 21.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing the big rank board at the end, are we? Oh well. Right.
Ah, that's gonna take
Tw-
forever.
21st. I've gone with Cars 3. I'm sorry, the Cars franchise.
Okay, okay. I have Brave.
Brave.
Now, Brave, I'm sorry, man. My main issue with Brave is kind of your issue with Incredibles 2. It could have been something
Oh yeah.
incredible.
Oh.
And what we got was the most mediocre
Look,
excuse
I'm just gonna get out of
for
the way. I've got Brave in 20th, so Brave is next to me, so I might as well talk about it now. Brave again is another film like Good Dinosaur that had kind of director troubles. You had the female director, they kind of kicked her out. They brought in a guy who didn't understand the original direction at all. Um, it was just a mess all around of a movie, and I think there's so much. I like the world they build in Brave. I think there's a foundation. The reason I have put Brave above, say, the Cars films or say Good Dinosaur is that there is potential there. There's something there, but yeah, like you said, so much more.
and not to mention, I'm sick of everybody calling me Merida because I have big, poofy red hair, curly hair.
uh,
Big, and I'm sick of that. Bro, we curly hair gingers don't all look the same.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
not true. But I gave the movie itself a 6 out of 10. It's just
I
it's
gave it a
not even it's
5.
not that's why I hate the movie so much because it's not even a bad movie. It's just
All right.
generic.
Right then, I had Cars 3 here. Cars 3 was the
Now,
strongest one, but my
before now
yeah,
listen. Oh, are you on 21 or are you on 20?
I'm on 20. I skipped ahead because Brave is my 20th. 21st was Cars 3.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I was gonna say before we get on to 20, in between 2021, because you have not seen this yet, I put Elemental. Now, this might be a hot take, but I did not enjoy Elemental all that much.
I've
It was
I've heard mixed things
everything
about it.
about it. Everything about it was super cliched. Nothing was original. Aside from a clever joke or a cool visual here and there, you're not gonna get
The thing
anything
is,
out of this
I
movie.
was really
And
rooting for Elemental because
me
Pixar
too.
Pixar is you know, it's not had a good few years. The decision to put Turning Red and Luca on Disney Plus were a joke in my opinion, And then Lightyear was the
Especially
one thing that
Luca.
bombed. I was like, I need Elemental to be good. I need it to restore Pixar. 'Cause I love this company. But then when I saw that trailer, I was like, I'm not in a rush to go see it 'cause I don't. It's the most overdone story you've ever seen. It's Zootopia, but
No,
done worse. Like it. I'm not, and I've not seen it. I can't judge it, but it's turning me off. And based off what you said, I mean, I might completely disagree. I might actually like it when I see it eventually, but
now you might, because I was the opposite. When I saw the trailer, I was actually really turned on to the idea. I was like, you know what? I like this. I love the animation. I think I liked this Romeo and Juliet storyline because Pixar hasn't really done any real romance-centered films before.
and
And so I was
when they do, their wife dies in the first 10 minutes.
shut up. And
Uh,
it's like, and I was intrigued. Now, once you see the movie, we can talk about this because this is kind of gets into spoiler territory. But there's one thing I think could have made the movie a little better, and it shows. I'm not gonna give it away, but if you look at all the posters, there's one thing. It gives off the vibe that if something is in the way, making their relationship very unique, which is the fact that it is a water and fire falling in love. Water and fire don't mix. So there's something there that could have made it super interesting, but they don't do it. And
yeah.
should I give it away? Should I just say what it is, or just
No,
see for yourself?
I do actually want to see it.
All right,
And I
I'll
want to
tell
see it not
you.
because I'm excited for the film. I just want to discuss it. To be honest. Anyway, 21st
Mm,
I put Cars 3. For me, it's the most forgettable film in all of Pixar's catalog. It's the best one because it's the one that has the best like kind of character. Lightning's is most likable in this one. The most memorable thing about the film was that they teased he was gonna die in the trailer. That was funny, but felt.
wanted to die.
I mean, it would have been like it would have done something to the franchise. You know what I mean? Like,
It's a kids movie, dude.
oh,
Nah,
Pixar have not
I.
shied away from death before. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, okay, but this is this is like 4 or 5 year olds. Nah, I also have Cars 3 at number 20. It's the best in the franchise. Not saying much.
yeah.
And it's the most rewatchable. Also, not saying much.
Okay, 19th, as this was 2021 or 2022, you would have hated this. I did put Wally in 19th.
Okay, that's still really, really low in my opinion. I even though okay, let me just spoiler. Wally, give if this was like 2 years ago, would have been at number two.
Yeah,
That has
I do
changed.
remember.
That has changed. However, I still don't think it's in the bottom 15. What are you dumb? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I know
think there
you.
are films above it that you probably don't like as much as Wally, but my issue with Wally is that the whole consensus with Wally is that the first half is really good, it's silent, its animation is bare. The second half it falls off a bit. But for me, if you actually look at it, that first half is not that long. It's about 25-30 minutes. On rewatch, it's not as long as
Okay,
I
it's
thought
at
it is.
least 40 minutes. It's at least 45 minutes of just pure joy you get from this
Yeah,
movie, and then the second half
it feels
is lame.
shorter than it actually is though. It goes by so quick, and then when you get to the action, you just get such an unnecessary villain, such an unnecessary character. The Axiom's animation is cool, but I think if you did this now, it should have been like an hour-long kind of special on Disney Plus of the two robots with no dialogue meeting and falling in love. I think, or you should just done the whole
Or
film. I think you had something great here that could have been a top five, top three, but I think you ruined it and.
or it could have been a full feature-length film in theaters that just took place on Earth and was just about Wally and Eve, and then certain
I
maybe a few things could like fall from space or something, and just they could have made a whole movie just on Earth, and they didn't.
Wally
And
is like
everything that
Incredibles
has to
2,
do on
where
the
it's
space.
just frustrating because of wasted potential, and I think it's a lot better than Incredibles 2, or a lot better than Brave, but it is a bit low, really. But I've always not loved it too much.
Mine number 19 might be actually a bit of a hot take. I put Turning Red, and
Ooh,
let me reinstate that this is a personal preference, opinion only list. Turning Red is not a bad movie. It is a cute 7 out of 10 movie. it's just not for me. I can't with the squealing. I can't with the girls trying to go to a concert or get the new boyfriend or something. It's not my kind of movie. I really
Yeah.
don't find these enjoyable. It's the same thing with like She-Hulk, for example. It's not a bad show. It's just not for me.
Oh,
It's
I
not a
love
show
that.
that I.
I love that comparison because I've got Turning Red a bit higher because, but I might have done it wrong because I'm kind of in your camp of like, yeah, but I'm more looking at, yeah, I may have done this list wrong with Turning Red. We'll get to it in a minute, but so my rating for Wally, I think it is a 7 out of 10 film. Like, right, 18th I went for A Bug's Life.
Okay, a little generous, but okay.
Yeah, I think
Number 18. You go for it.
I just think I'll keep this brief because we've already kind of discussed. I think out of like the bad category, like the mediocre category, I think from Beyond A Bug's Life, I really like all of these films, but I think it is a bit overhated at times. There's stuff I don't like. The Misunderstanding, the Lie Reveal. It's not a great film, but I do give it the benefit of that because it was their second film and it's not as like harmful, and it kind of serves its purpose. I don't know what else you could have done with A Bug's Life really. So
Yeah, it's just it's very generic. I agree. Okay, number 18, my number 18. Okay, again, let me reinstate this is just personal preference. I have Finding Dory. It is not a bad movie.
I don't like
It's
that
just
placement. I
compared
can
to
get behind Turning Red, but that Finding Dory
it's
one.
compared to its predecessor. Now that I look at it, I might actually let me actually low key, I might actually change this ranking to put it to. I actually want to put number 16 now because the two above it I don't like as much. Anyway, but let's just keep it how it is. Finding Dory number 18.
Yeah.
Not my favorite movie of all time. Not a bad one. It's just that I think the original is so much stronger. And this one is just kind of they kind of focus. Whereas the first movie was very much focused on the parents, but still give the kids a good time, they focused mainly on the kids, and the people who were nostalgic to Finding Nemo couldn't really get into it,
Yeah, I
other
get
than
it.
the fact
I'll
that
talk more about
Dory and
Finding Dory once
Martin
you
are
get
there.
it. What would you rate Finding Dory?
7 out of 10. It's a
Yeah.
perfectly
All
passable
right,
movie.
17th
It's
is
just
probably my um worst take out of all of them. I'm gonna be honest. Even looking at
oh
this now, I
probably
mean, I have to be honest because this is a personal list again. But I've put Up in 17th.
no, you didn't.
I have.
Okay, I can understand Incredibles 2. Incredibles 2 is not Shakespeare, but Up is Shakespeare. What are you
All
talking
right, what have
about?
you got in 17th?
I got Toy Story 4.
And I don't like that.
Bro, bro, Toy Story 4 sucks. Okay.
Up
Okay.
is terrible.
Su-
Okay.
Okay, wait, did you just say Up is
No,
terrible?
it's not terrible. I'm just having that. My problem with
Okay.
Up is this is the personal. I think it's actually a 7.58 out of 10 movie, but if I was doing this at creative level, it's probably in the top 10. But for me, it's another Wally case. Except instead of Wally having 45 in it, this time you've only got 10. I can't get into the concept. There's all right things. The father son element is quite nice, but this villain of Charles Mumps and these birds and these talking dog, it loses me. It's too bizarre. It's too out there. It's not my type of movie. There's not funny scenes. The ending is incredible, but really, the first 10 minutes are so strong, and then it takes a whole shift, does a whole U-turn to something completely different, and every time I can never get into it. And I hate to say it.
Okay, spoiler alert, we're not going to get to Up on my list for a very hot minute, but I disagree, and you will see why much later on, if
All
that
right,
doesn't already give
and
it away
then
where it is.
your point
Number
with Toy Story 4.
It is the dullest, most unneeded movie ever. Toy Story 3 ended perfectly. And then Toy Story 4 came in. And if it was marketed as a Woody side quest or a Woody solo
That Yeah,
only
that's the
movie,
part I agree with.
it could have been.
The film should have been titled Woody. It would have went down so much better,
But
I think.
But I really enjoyed this movie when I first saw it because I was like, okay, maybe this ending does have a purpose. Maybe it's like, okay, it's our final goodbye. You know what? Go for it. But no, Toy Story 5 is coming out and
Look,
Woody's gonna
okay.
be in it.
In my defense, I agree that I think Toy Story 4 might fall in my ranking when Toy Story 5 comes out if it's not great, and I've not got high hopes for it. But my thing is, I'm looking at it as it stands currently. For me, Toy Story 4 is my ending, and that's the way I see it. We'll get to my opinion on it because I've got a few spots higher than this, but yeah. Moving on to 16th, shouldn't be as controversial. My 16th, hopefully.
Oh, Toy Story 5, I guess a 7 out of 10, but whatever.
Yeah. Up is a 8 out of 10
Passable, but
probably.
not good.
It's not for me. All right, let's get 16th. I put Onward.
Okay, not bad. Number 16, I put Monsters University.
That is still low.
Um, that again, nah, Monsters University. Okay, even let's be honest here. Monsters University is not a very good movie. It is a very fun movie, but it is
Yeah,
not
but
like
this is the
something that
personal list. That's right. On a critical level, yeah, it's
that,
bottom 10.
that's why I put it so high.
That's
Dude,
not
if
right.
I put it Dude, if I put it based on creative and just the movie itself, it would have been like below Brave. Like
Probably, yeah.
it's not a good movie.
I just
It's just a very fun movie.
Okay.
And that's why it's so high, even though you say it's not high. The movie itself is like a 6.5 out of 10. But it's just fun. It's unneeded. The beginning, the first third of the movie is boring as sin. And then it gets to the games, and then it's like, okay, this is kind of fun. And the ending is
Yeah.
really sweet, but it's just
Okay.
it's not
Now,
needed, and it's
Onward is a film that I do think is underrated in some ways. I think people do give it too much hate. I think it's a decent film. It's not groundbreaking. It was nowhere near Soul or Luca or even Turning Red for me, but it had a good element to it, and the ending was sensational. It's funny because the guy who directed this film also directs Monster University. And I think they're two films that aren't great films but have great emotional cores, and the emotional core and the ending is sensational. This film. My big issue with Onward, and the reason I put it low, is I've been pretty much studying DreamWorks' Rise of the Guardians recently because I've been working on a video essay for it, and that film, the world that they build is a world that you want to see more, you want to explore in. World building is so important in that film. In Onward, the world building is terrible. They don't make the world exciting. This world isn't entertaining. It's not clever, and that's my big issue. I think the world building. I love the two leads. I think Chris Pratt and Tom Holland's performances are great. I think the ending is great. The comedy really works. It's a fun adventure, but the world building and the actual plot doesn't work for me. That's why it's 16th.
yeah, I actually got Onward at number 15.
Yeah, makes
Um,
sense.
Pretty much the same reasons. I agree. The world building's not great. It for me though, the movie really takes off like the second the quest starts and they go into that restaurant. That's when the movie starts for me. I
Yeah.
really loved the ending. Like the ending is what put it so high for me. It's just it is such a beautiful ending, and the realization of his true relationship with his brother and stuff, and how he never needed his dad because he always kind of had one. That was just so beautiful and really had the Pixar touch to it. But it's also not groundbreaking, so it's only like a 7.5 out of 10 for me.
Okay. Yeah, and then
What do
Onward,
you
I'd
have in
probably
number
give a
15?
6.5 out of 10 because I think critically there is elements that aren't great in it. It might have a good ending, but like on an actual creative level, it's down there. So 15th one to now. Well, I do have Finding Dory, and what have you got?
15 was Onward for me.
Oh yeah, yeah, you said. Sorry, sorry.
Mhm.
Finding
No, you're good.
Dory.
You're good.
I am biased. I just really enjoy the film. Yes, Marlin and Nemo aren't given a lot to do, and that's the first point everyone makes. But I actually think the new characters they introduce are memorable. They are entertaining. You know, your
Oh,
Hank, your
they are for
Destiny.
sure.
They add something to this world, and I think this is another one where at least they actually put like Dory in the title, and like Toy Story 4, where this is Dory's film, and I think her character's really well done. I love the flashbacks. I love the kind of the ending, how she reunites. I love how they use that kind of disability to tell the story. I think it's just a really enjoyable film. It's not as good as the first one, obviously. It was never going to be, but it. I
Mm.
think it is a lot better than Incredibles 2, unfortunately for me. If you would have told me the
Yeah,
Incredibles sequel, the Finding Nemo sequel, I would have picked Incredible every day of the week. But
Yeah, but I still think that Incredibles 2 is better, but that's not the point. Yeah, Finding Dory is not a bad movie. It's just my personal preference. I don't think it's as funny as some other movies. I don't think it's as rewatchable as some of the other ones,
I
and
can
that's
see
just my
it.
opinion.
I'm not angry at the Finding Dory take. Like,
Yeah.
I think the Monster University and the
Number
Toy Story 4 ones are the ones that are kind of annoying me so far the most. And then
Why?
Finding
Monsters University is so just why does that anger you so much, dude? It's
I
not a great film.
it is. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. 14th. I'll kick it off. I did put Turning Red in 14th, and look, I get why I hate people who put Turning Red at the bottom of their list. Like I've seen people put Turning Red below Cars 2. I think
My cousin actually puts Turning Red at the bottom of his list.
yeah, it's stupid. Like because the film, what it's going for, is it's like She-Hulk. It's a perfect analogy because it is trying to depict that kind of early 2000s teen girl, and it is cringe at times. It is hard to get through certain scenes, but I think it does work. The generational trauma element is decent, not as good as they did in films like Encanto, for example, but still it worked. The ending, well, a bit silly at times. I do really enjoy it, and I think it's creative, the animation, it's a fun film. It is an 8 out of 10 film for me. It's not one of my favourites, obviously. It's not a classic. It's not something I'd stick on, but and maybe it should be a bit lower. But on a critical level, it is probably, apart from Soul, the best film they've done in this decade so far.
That's a hot take. Yeah, it's just not my movie. It's not bad. It has a
Fair
sweet
enough.
ending. It's just
And then what did you have?
number 14. This might also be a hot take that you might not agree with, especially considering how obsessed you are with Monsters University. I put Monsters Inc. Um,
Get Out.
it's Okay, listen, dude. Monsters Inc. is such a fun, cute, adorable movie. It's the world building could be a little cool, a little more unique. It's just it's a solid 8 out of 10 movie. It's not something that you're gonna there's no mess. It's really honestly my main issue. It's mostly nitpicks. It's just like compare to other Pixar movies. That's why I put it
I
at
do think it
14. It's
gets to
not
the
as
point on this list where you do it. I can understand. Like I had, I think there's one like 2000 film that everyone maybe has a bit low. For me, it's Up. I'm not a fan of. For you, it's Monster. I can understand it. I just think having Monster Inc. is so much higher for me. You're gonna have to wait a while till you hear about me. But
which is
13th,
a completely fine. It is such a perfectly solid movie. It's just that compared to some of these other movies, the message is not as strong, the
okay.
jokes don't hit as well, the characters aren't as memorable.
13th
But
for
that doesn't
me,
mean
and
it's not a great movie.
13th for me, and I did this one. I did debate putting lower. I did debate putting higher, but it took me a while to kind of find out my placement. But I did put Luca in 13th.
Okay, not angry, but confused.
Um, for me, the thing with Luca is it's just such the solid film. What I liked about the film was that it kind of took you back to that 2000s bit of Pixar. Soul was such a complex film, and it was a great film. It's quite high on my list, which we'll find out later. But it, I think Luca was just the simplicity worked. It was just a story of two boys just having an adventure, and I think that's what worked about it. It was simple, it was charming, but it's not a classic. It's not one that I'm gonna watch over. It's not Shakespeare, you know what I mean? It's not a masterpiece. It's a fun ride.
Okay, you can look it out like that. 13, I got Wally.
Yeah,
It used to be number two, but after a rewatch, it's like I loved everything about the first 45 minutes, and then they went to space, and I just went,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
bored. It's not fun anymore. It sucks out everything I had going for it. But for me, the first 45 minutes and the Wally and Eva characters are enough to keep it a perfectly solid 8 out of 10 movie. It just
Okay,
could have been so much better, which is why I understand why it gets people so angry.
yeah. Right. So move on.
Number 12.
Tw- 12 now, and I think you knew this was coming based off last night, but I'm gonna go for the original Toy Story.
Okay, now the fact that you put that below Toy Story 4 is a crime, but that's not a bad
We'll get to
placement.
it. I think the original Toy Story is a difficult one. It's the Snow White of Pixar because it's like, well, when you watch the documentaries and you see what they went through to actually get this film actually made, and you see the dedication they put into it, it deserves to be number one in some merit. But when you, it is aged poorly in some elements. I know it's hard to nitpick the animation. It's the first CGI animated film, but you can't. It is distracting at that point. And I think out of the four films, it has the least going for it in themes, the least going for it in character, like kind of development and ization. I think the Buzz's arc is fun. I think it's the funniest Toy Story film. I think it's got the most creative visual. I think Woody, in original screenings, I'm sure we've all seen what he was originally like, but I still think in the final credit he is a bit, in the first half especially, he's a bit off and he's a bit obnoxious, and he gets better in the sequels definitely. But it's a solid film. Like that's all it is.
Number 12, I got Incredibles 2 because it is, I'm sorry, man, it is just, it
I've
might
got
not
whole
be
10
the strongest
spaces
movie
higher
ever
than I
made.
put it.
Listen, Incredibles 2 is just, it's so fun. It's so funny. You can rewatch it a million times. Everything about it is just, it's just like, I think as an Incredibles 1 lover, I think it captures the soul. And it might not be as strong as its
Yeah.
predecessor, but that doesn't mean it's any less. Granted, the newer characters aren't that great. The villain is the weakest part of the whole movie, but I think it's still a perfectly good movie.
Yeah. I, I do get it, but I've voiced my concerns, and you can see some of the bit. There's different ways you can look at it. What would you give Incredibles 2?
The movie itself, like an 8 out of
I
10.
think Toy Story in a way is a 10 out of 10 for what it started, but as an actual movie, 8 out of 10, yeah. 11th is Toy Story 4.
Okay, 11, I got Toy Story 1. You just gotta flip those around and you're good. Um, Toy Story 1, I think it just barely missed the top 10. It's just that it is such, everything about it is just so fun and just so sweet. And it's like, it's groundbreaking the fact that it is the first CGI movie ever, but the fact that it's the first CGI movie with a beautiful script and memorable characters, like they hit the jackpot and they did everything right. And I thought it was funny, it was heartwarming, everyone can enjoy it. The animation, even though it's not as good as the newer movies, still kind of holds up, except for Sid.
Oh my
It's
god,
really
yeah.
it's a 9 out of 10 movie.
They hadn't
It's a 9 out of 10
perfected
movie.
humans at
It's
that
just
point, but the toys, they look fine. Look,
mm-hmm.
Toy Story 4 is. There's a few films that I will defend till the grave, and Toy Story 4 is on that list for me. I just think.
And you're fighting a losing battle.
Look, Toy Story 4 is quite divisive. I think there are people who really love the film, there are people who don't like it, like you, for example. But for me, I just think for what it
Mm-hmm.
was able to continue on a character arc that we thought was over. And I think Toy Story 4 3, the way that ended, everyone hated the idea of a fourth Toy Story, but they found a way to actually take Woody's character and give him. And it made sense, the arc he went on. I think people complain about him leaving the toys, but he was always trying to leave them. He put Andy above everything, and now he's moved on from Andy. It makes sense that he would move on for Bonnie and want to actually see the world. And I think if you actually, yes, what they did with the other toys was bad. Buzz's inner voice plotline was atrocious, and we could have done without that. But the new cast they bring in, Ducky and Bunny, are just an absolute romp. I like Gabby Gabby's kind of this twist on like the kind of the twist within the whole angle. I think Duke Kaboom is really absolutely jokesome, and Forky, he works a lot. I think, and yes, it's not perfect, and it's nowhere near the other two sequels, and you'll see where I've got them. But I just think it worked, and I'm so annoyed at Toy Story 5 because I think that film worked so well as this film worked as a good conclusion. It's like, okay, but now we're done. Now we can move on. I don't know what they're going to do with Toy Story 5, but I'm really scared for it because Toy Story is one of my favourite film franchises ever, and and they've not had a bad entry yet. Like, even you can agree that Toy Story
Mm-hmm.
4 isn't a bad film.
It's just the weakest in the move in the franchise. But that doesn't I don't think I
It's
think
so you say it's like the Kung Fu Panda 3 of Toy Story then?
I even enjoy Kung Fu Panda 3 more than Toy Story 4.
That's
But I
that's
wouldn't
a terrible
consider
take.
a Pixar movie. other than Cars 2 and Lightyear, I wouldn't consider any of these like bad movies. It's just that when
Yeah.
you're ranking them, you gotta admit when some movies are better than
All
others.
right. The top 10 is brutal for me. And moving into 10th, now, and I hate to put this film here. I don't know if you're gonna like this, and I don't really like it myself. But I have gone for Ratatouille in 10th.
Okay,
Look,
why?
Ratatouille on a critical level is top three. It is such a well-crafted film. What I love about Pixar, and one of my favourite things, especially about the earlier films, was they were able to take these ideas and concepts that always sounded stupid on paper. A rat learning to cook, who wants to watch that? And they found a way to make this engaging. Just for me, Ratatouille isn't as rewatchable. It doesn't stand out much. It doesn't do anything wrong, really. I like the villain. I like the heart. Remy works as a lead. The ending's great. Linguini's arc is fantastic. I love Antonigo and his backstory and all of that. But it's just, it doesn't stand out for me. The 9 films above it I'd rather rewatch, and we're kind of getting to that territory now.
Okay, that's a little shocking because Ratatouille, I would consider one of, if not the most rewatchable Pixar movie for me. I've seen that movie 20 million times. That doesn't mean I put it any place particularly high, but I gotta disagree on the rewatchable part. I think it really
And
stands
what
out
have
for
you got in
me.
10th?
Number 10, I put Luca. Um, honestly, I thought I was being generous by putting it number 10, but honestly, it is like so adorable and it does absolutely nothing wrong. Everything it
Yeah.
does is just right on the money.
I
I
don't
can
think it
rewatch
does
this movie
anything
any day.
like incredible either. That's why I put it where I
But
did.
that's the thing, though. It's one of those movies where less is sometimes more. A simple plot with a kid who just wants to experience something new is enough with some
Toy Story
memorable
4
and
had a
fun
simple plot.
characters. Toy Story 4 sucked, though. It's all about the execution.
Oh my god. Oh, Toy
Now,
Story 4.
Luca itself was like an 8 out of 10, but personally, I
Yeah,
absolutely
Ratatouille for
adored
me
it.
is a 9.5 out of 10 on a critical scale. It doesn't stand out for me. Ninth is for the same reason as Ratatouille. And I have put Coco in ninth, and I hate to put it there.
Ooh, that hits. That shot through the heart, and you're to blame. No, I'm sorry. Um, that's ooh. Okay, why?
Um, I it's the same thing for Ratatouille. I think the concept of Coco is incredible. I think kind of the theme, the way they influence culture, Mexican culture into the film is fantastic. It just, I think there's certain bits that do drag. I think the story could need a bit of trimming, a bit of work. I think there's some characters that maybe could get more to do. I like Ernesto de la Cruz a lot. I think he works a lot. The whole twist with Hector is fantastic. Hector works, and the whole idea, the cultural theme, kind of the score, the animation, it all really works. It's just not too memorable for me. I don't think it's all that funny either. I think the comedy compared to other Pixar films, so maybe that's why it's not as rewatchable for me. I'm not sure though. I am nitpicking. I think I'm trying to find reason to justify that because it's so hard.
Yeah, couldn't disagree more, but we'll get there when we get there. Number 9, I put Soul. Hear me out. It is a perfectly well constructed movie with amazing characters, an amazing story. And the only reason why I put it as low as I did is just probably because of my nostalgia towards the top
Yeah,
eight.
I did
It's
find
just
that. I've only watched Soul about 3 times in my life. I've seen Finding Nemo about 100 times in my life. It's
same.
like you.
Soul I've only seen about Soul I've only seen about two, maybe three times. It is a perfectly beautiful movie. It's just that compared to some of these other ones, I don't have the same nostalgic hold
Yeah,
to it. So that's why it's at nine.
it's a weak like kind of argument. I know, but like
Yeah.
eighth, I have put Monsters University.
That is so bro, no one in the world would agree with you.
What have you got in eighth? I want you to explain yours first, cause
I got Ratatouille in eight
okay,
because it
fair
is
enough.
such a it is I'm sorry. Everything that you said was wrong with Ratatouille is the reason why I love it. It is so memorable. It is so rewatchable. It is so beautiful to look at, and it sticks out so much, and it really does leave a mark. While I don't think while I think the Rat Family and the stuff with Linguini could have been handled a lot better, I think in execution it's memorable, man. It's so much fun, and it's
I
just
see
and
it.
it
I
makes
do
you
see it.
yeah.
Monster University. This is my one like kind of guilty pleasure pick. This is the one pick that makes no sense, but this pick and one other is a reason why I decided to do this as a personal level, because I thought A, it bring more debate, and B, because of this film, because I just think the way Monster University and the message of how it tackles disability is sensational. I think it kind of I love how Mike doesn't become a scare in the end. I love that sometimes no matter how hard you want something,
But
you're
you
not
knew
cut
that
out
was
for it.
gonna happen. You
What?
knew that was gonna happen though. That was set up in the original movie.
But yeah, but you got to judge these films on their own. This is a prequel. This comes first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a prequel to something
I
that's
just
already
think it's
been
such a
made.
strong message. That scene at the lake is sensational, and I think the rest of the film is really fun. People hate on like the first kind of acting; it's not great, but it's fun. It's good to see kind of older generations of scarers and see what the Scarefall look like, kind of a different period. I do enjoy the
It
world of
is
Monsters Universe Inc. a lot more than you do, so maybe that's why. I think the Scare Games plot, it's you've seen it before. It's every sports movie, but it's it's fun, it's entertaining. I think the team that they form, you get a lot of good kind of banter and rapport between those characters. It's just a blast of a great message. I don't see I don't see why it's been so hated throughout history. Like everyone put us down there in their rankings with your Braves, with your Light Years, with your Cars 2s, Cars 1s, A Bug's Life, and I don't see it. Like
because it's not good.
yeah, on a critical level, it's a 4 out of 10. I'm gonna be honest. No, 5 out of 10 probably. But like, I love it. It's Monster University.
You know what, dude? It's your guilty pleasure. If you love it, like here's again, I think it's a guilty pleasure for me too, but not a top 10 guilty pleasure.
I
Like,
can't believe I
hold
put that
up.
against Coco, Ratatouille, the first Toy Story, even Toy Story 4. Like,
That is a crime against cinema.
all right.
Um, all right, number seven, I put this is so new for me, but number seven, I put Finding Nemo. Finding
I
Nemo
had Finding
used to
Nemo as
before this.
well.
Okay,
The
listen, your
fourth
opinion
time
has
on
stayed the
this.
same. Mine is different because Finding Nemo originally for me was just like it's cute, it's passable and stuff. But I rewatched it recently and I have such a new perspective on it now. It is the message is just so
Yeah.
beautiful. The storyline is so strong. The characters are so memorable. The animation is so beyond its time. And it's just everything about it is just mwah, it's great.
Finding Nemo is probably my most rewatched film of all time, behind the film I put at number one on this list. And that shows how much I love
Mhm.
Pixar. When I was young, I used to watch this film over and over again, and I'd make the same quirks and commentary every time I'd watch it. I would watch it every day for at least 2 years. I'm not even joking. But the only reason it's not in the top six is because I have seen it so many times. I can't actually watch it anymore because of how many times I've seen it. But I just think they crafted a world which was so memorable. You've got this harp. I think it the plot. Yes, you could argue it is just kind of character after character. You know, scene after. But all of those characters are memorable. Everyone remembers those sharks. Everyone remembers Crush and Skirt, the turtles. Everyone remembers the tank gang. Everyone remembers that school of fish. You know what I mean? Or the stingray scene. Everyone remembers Dory and Marlin and Darla and Nemo. Like so many memorable characters. Such an amazing heart and core. Such great psycho. It is a classic film for a reason, and it's just the score is one of the best in Pixar as well. By the way, I need to get that out. The way they were able to animate water, it looks
Mhm.
so good. It ages so well to this day. The comedy is on point. There's some good kind of hidden adult jokes in Finding Nemo, particularly, and it's just great. I love Finding Nemo, but the only reason it's not above again is because I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, that I've seen it a million times too. It's just, but I just started like gaining respect for it, and it's so good. 9.5 movie for me.
Sixth for me is gonna be Soul.
Okay, number six for me is Toy Story 2.
I can get behind
And
that,
let me
yeah.
just say, let me start off by saying that my top six, all of these movies I would consider perfect. That doesn't mean they're all 10 out of 10s, but all these movies, I don't think there's anything you could do to make these movies any better.
Yeah,
I think
I'd say pretty much all
all
of my top 10 minus Monster University are close to perfection.
yeah, Toy Story 2 is just cinema, man.
Yeah,
How is it that your predecessor is so amazing and the second one is the same? It's just beyond. It's so everything they did, the comedy's on point. The new
yeah,
characters are just as memorable. The story is so much fun for every age to enjoy. It is I've seen this movie too many times and I can
yeah.
still watch it again.
Soul for me, I think it's not in the top 5 because of the same reason you said, recent kind of nostalgia reasons, but I think Soul is the most complicated and adult Pixar film to date. The themes, the messenger. You were actually the person to convince me that the ending was good in Soul when we did that podcast back in the day, and I've stuck with
The
that
ending
opinion ever
was
since.
great.
Yeah, I just think it was a great film, but the only reason it's not in the top 5 is that the top 5 are films that I would put on every day. Soul, you've got to be in a certain mood to watch it. I feel like I love 22,
I agree
love
with
the
that.
whole thing, but it
I
is
agree with
such
that.
an emotionally rich film, and I think it. What did help about this film was that it came out on kind of Christmas Day on Disney Plus in 2020, an atrocious year, and it was this treat at the end of the year that we had. So that probably played into
Okay,
it as well. Top 5 is
and now we're at the top five. We are gonna hate each other at the end of this. But number five, for all of my up stands, I got you. Number five is Up because Up, we all know
okay.
Lewis is
Well,
just a
funny
little
enough,
slow.
my fifth
That
place is Monsters Inc. So
that is so that is a choice that you decided to make, and that is something that is your opinion. Up is just I'm sorry, y'all. Yes, the opening 10 minutes arguably blow the rest of the movie out of the water. But I'm sorry, the rest of the movie I think is not as strong, but so strong, so fun, so enjoyable. It's so fun, man, and it's so
chaos.
perfectly made. Like, dude, I
I'd rather watch the
understand.
scare games. I'm gonna be honest.
Dude, nah, man. Dude, the
uh,
characters are so great. The villain is is like legitimately menacing. And there's like and the
he's
dog
not. He's
and
a
the dog
joke.
bro. What are you talking about? No, it's not, dude. It's like and the animation, all those balloons, and Russell is the perfect amount of annoying and funny. The bird is hilarious.
Yeah, I
The
agree with that. I
dogs
like
are
Russell as a
hilarious.
character.
Everything about it is just so pure fun and just it's the
Okay.
storyline is just great.
And
It's
Monsters
great.
Inc. The top
Nine and a
5 for
half
me
out
are
of 10.
all 10 out of 10s on critical levels and personal levels, by the way. But Monsters Inc. for me, I think they were able to take a concept, and it's such a genius concept of making these monsters have to scare children to harness their city. It's such a clever concept that Pete Docter was able to just make work. I think it is such a fun romp with an amazing heart. I think Mr. Waternoose is the best twist villain in a Disney or Pixar film. He makes sense, his motivation is, and the fact they have a villain there already in Randall, who's creatively, I think, on an animation level. What I love about Monsters Inc. is character design. I think the character design so sum up the characters so well. You've got some iconic characters. Everyone knows Roz. Everyone knows Sully and Mike and Randall and Boo. Like, it's such an entertainer. It's a classic film, and I think it really is. It's an absolute travesty, in my opinion, that Shrek won the first Best Animated Feature and not this film. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna be honest.
That is your take, man. It's not a bad movie. It's just a solid movie. It's just
Yeah.
that for me it's really just like other movies I think are more enjoyable. Number
Okay. So the
4,
top 4, we have 3 of the 4 the
I
same. I've got Toy Story 2 in there, and then you've got another one, right?
I have Coco at number
Coco. Yeah,
4.
that's it. Coco. So
And now
4.
I okay, I understand it for me it just hit all of the right places. Maybe it was because I really connected with this movie because when I I watched it at a time where my nana, who I was super super close with, did pass away,
Oh,
and
I'm
so I
sorry
think
to hear
that's why
that.
I kind of like an emotional connection with this movie. But it was
Yeah.
just also the music is spectacular. The characters are all memorable. The villain, this is the one time a twist villain actually worked in
I
a
can agree with
movie.
that. Yeah. Look,
And
I love Coco, and I hated to put it low. I can't believe I put it
and
so low.
the animation is, I would argue this is the most beautiful looking Pixar movie.
I'd say Soul personally, but it's definitely in top three for me.
Mm, not really, no. Except for the other than the jazz part, it's not that creative, so in my opinion.
Fourth I put Toy Story 2, so it seems we do have the same top three, which I'm glad about. But Toy Story 2, I think everyone talks about Toy Story 3 and how great that film was, and you'll see what it is in my list in a minute, but it is incredible. But Toy Story 2 is just as good. And I see some people argue it's even better. It's the perfect sequel. It takes the first film and adds more to that world, develops the characters, adds more ideas to that world. Al is absolute hilarious. I love the side quest. I think they find a way, and unlike Toy Story 4, where you kind of do have the other characters just lumped in an RV, they find a way to get everybody involved in the story. I think Woody's kind of crisis in the film. I love Jessie, her backstory. The Prospector, well, it's kind of a sudden twist. It's another twist film that actually does work, and it's just a brilliant sequel to one of my favourite film franchises.
It is. It is, I agree. And number three, I don't know how much this is gonna match. Number three, I got Inside Out.
I put Inside Out in third as well.
Yeah, listen, man, it is so beautiful. The script is
Yeah,
beyond
I
is
I
too
just want
good.
to say one thing. I am really excited, but also so nervous at the same time for Inside Out 2 because I really
Oh my
like.
God, it can go one of two ways. It's either gonna be
Yeah,
Pixar's greatest achievement or worst
it's
flop.
gonna it. I am like I. It's the sequel that I wanted. I think out of every Pixar film that hasn't got a sequel, it's the one. It's the obvious one to get a sequel because it's just they left it open ended at the end, and I think it could. I hope they handle it better than they did in Turning Red. And I do believe. I don't know if Pete Doctor's actually directing it though. That's the issue. I think someone else is doing it.
I think he is. He is.
I hope he is because he's not had a bad film yet. Although I've got my mixed
That
opinions on
to
that.
me, honestly, low key. If I will like actually like not watch Inside Out 2 if Bill Hader isn't in it, because there's some rumors that they're not inviting Bill Hader back. And in which case, if that is true, I will not watch this movie. I'm sorry, Bill Hader is my ride or die.
Yeah, I've heard rumors. I think the discussed actress Mindy Kaling as well. I'm not. I don't know if she's gonna
I
be in
don't
it.
care about her. She made Velma, which sucked.
Yeah. I mean, but anyway, Inside Out. I think what they did is it's the only film that I've ever cried at, which is a random statistic. I think it's just such a great story. The way it shows emotions, and it really is a family film. It's such a sensational work of art, and it came out in a decade where they had Brave, Cars 2, Monsters University, Good Dinosaur,
Hmm.
Cars 3, Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4. Like no, Coco as well was the other classic in there, but like in that decade, they were the two that really stood out. And Inside Out for me is an amazing achievement, and words can't describe it for me. It was the first ever, I believe, Disney ranked episode I ever did, and for good reason.
Yeah, it really came out at a time that Pixar needed it the most.
And I feel like now, I feel like they could need another like Inside Out, and it'd be interesting if Inside Out 2 is the film that does that, or will it be that Elo film or something completely different? Because they've had a string of a few, Lightyear, Elemental, Turning Red. Like they need a hit with their next film.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
All right, second place, and we've got the same top two, and I think I know which way this is going, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it. So what have you got a second?
I got Toy Story 3.
I've got The Incredibles.
Yeah, honestly, this is where personal opinion comes in place. Toy Story
Okay.
3, objectively, okay, can already spoil it. Incredibles is my number one. Now
Toy Story
listen,
3 is my number
this
one, and Toy Story 3 is in fact my favorite film of all time.
this is where personal preference comes in place. Toy Story 3 is a spectacular, phenomenal movie. The only reason, and it is a 10 out of 10. I think Incredibles is a 9 out of 10. It's just purely on personal take. Personal opinion, I just enjoyed Incredibles a little more. Toy Story 3, that doesn't take away anything how great Toy Story 3 is. It's just I just personally enjoy The Incredibles more. It is a
Okay, the
personal,
reason
personal
for me
take.
Toy Story 3 is number one is because the way it was such a masterpiece in the sense that they made it 10 years after the second film and the audience had grown up with Andy. It was this groundbreaking. So I'm a sucker for prison break films and seeing plans come together, and that I love that element of the film. Lotso is one of Pixar's best villains. He's sensational, and that ending, man, it is like him giving the. It was the right ending. I've seen people say, "Oh, Woody should have gone to college with him." No, it was the right decision. The incinerator scene. Every single person, I genuinely thought they were gonna die when I first watched it. I'm not even joking. I think Sunnyside is such a fun scene, and kind of it's just such a good plot. Woody's arc in the film. Everyone's got something to do. It's entertaining. The comedy is on point. It is the best Pixar film by far, and I'm gutted that Lee Unkrich, who directed it, is no longer at the company because I would have loved to see what else he could do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's and yeah, with that, you can clearly see how personal preference plays in these lists sometimes, and that
Yeah.
objectively other movies are better than others, but that's just
I
not how
think The
you see it. And that's
Incredibles
completely
on an
okay.
objective level is Pixar's best film. I think it's probably one of the best superhero films ever. Like it is up there with your Infinity War, your
Yeah,
Civil Wars, your
you want to
Sky
go there,
Crisis.
which
Like
absolutely.
it's up there. You know what I mean? It is. It's they were able to take this film and make superhero film, disguise it as that, and make it this family drama with these
Hmm.
complex heroes having to deal with the reality. Syndrome is the best twist villain if you even count him as that, and by far he is so entertaining to watch in the role. He works so well, and the action is fantastic. The family and the relationship, you buy it between them. Each character is given something to do. The side
Yeah.
characters are iconic. Edna Mode, for example, it is really is the pinnacle achievement of Pixar.
Yeah, I like before we wrap this up, I just gotta say I don't think Syndrome was ever meant to be a twist villain. I think it was pretty clear that was his origin story that
Yeah, that's why I
he has
don't
developed.
count him. That's why I call Mr. Walton is the best twist villain. But
But let's wrap this up because we've been on air for over an hour now. Yeah. So
uh,
that does it.
that was
We could
Pixar.
see
Yeah,
that
I mean
we
when
get
you
along on certain movies more than others, but
Toy
we're
Story
still
4,
friends
Monsters
for some
University
reason.
up, Monsters Inc. But if you actually look at Pixar's upcoming schedule, you do have to worry about them. And I'm gonna be honest.
Here
Like,
is my thing. Elemental is doing terrible at the box office. And keep this in mind, guys. The next Pixar movie to come out is an original. It's Elio.
yeah,
But here's the thing. If Elio doesn't do well at the box office, expect nothing but sequels and spin-offs for the next coming years at Pixar. Because
what's
Inside
your
Out is
prediction? What sequels do you
because
think will
listen to
come?
me. Inside Out 2 is guaranteed to make money back. But
Yeah,
Elio is not. And Elio could be an because these past couple of movies Pixar has not made a movie that's made them money since Toy Story 4. Now think about it like this, by the way. Onward lost money. Now it could have made money, but COVID unfortunately
I
hit.
think Onward would
Toy
have made
Story
money as well.
4,
The marketing, it was
I
everywhere.
think so. Toy Story 4 and Incredibles 2 were the two movies that came out before Onward.
And
Both of
they
those
made a
made
lot of money as well. They
both
made a
of
lot of money
those made a
club.
billion dollars each. And so what I'm saying is that if Elio doesn't do good, they're going to go back to their sequel
Absolutely.
formula and get
What
nothing but
sequels would
sequels.
you actually want to see for Pixar? You wouldn't be against.
I can only really say movies that I don't want a sequel for. For sure, I want an Incredibles 3 because
I think that makes
obviously
sense.
I
Yeah.
would I would love a maybe a Ratatouille too. I think that has
I think
potential. Maybe
Ratatouille's
even like
untouchable at this point, unless you get Brad Bird back to do it.
I would say a Luca too.
Yeah, that's the one I
And
think of. I think Luca has a lot more potential there. Onward potentially as well. I think maybe because if they
and now I don't think anyone would see it though if it was an Onward
I
too.
guess yeah. Um,
And yeah, and that and maybe a and like a legit Monsters Inc. too. That could work. Like not a prequel, like a sequel
and
to
of course
Monsters Inc.
we all want to see Toy Story 5. I can't wait for it personally. and Cars 4.
Oh God.
Alright,
See,
anyway,
they're
I
not
feel
though,
we're
because
gonna
all the
wrap this
cars
up
are.
now. I've enjoyed this, but
Yeah,
we got to do this again for like Marvel or something
yeah.
else.
Why don't I'll hook you up in 2024. How about that?
Probably gonna be that as well, yeah. So I'll probably put this on my YouTube channel at some point. So yeah. Anyway, thank you
All
all
right.
for
Thank you all for
listening.
listening.
Goodbye.